Americans living through an economic mirage that's about to shatter. While politicians paint rosy pictures and economists debate the numbers, real families are facing a harsh reality that the data might finally be catching up to. Core insights. Recent economic data signals a significant slowdown in the US economy's momentum. Fresh polling reveals Utah residents expressing pessimism about both national economic trends and their personal financial outlook. Despite nationwide concerns, Utah's economic performance continues to surpass other states dramatically. Meet Cami and Oliver Halver, a couple who seemingly did everything right financially. These 30-somethings made strategic choices that many financial advisors would applaud. They completed their college education at local universities without accumulating student loan debt, purchased pre-owned vehicles with cash payments, and secured their sandy home in 2021 when mortgage rates were still comfortably sitting around 3%. Our financial situation feels stable right now, Cami Horver explains. We consider ourselves fortunate compared to others in our generation. But here's where it gets controversial. Even financially secure couples like the Horvers are feeling the weight of economic uncertainty pressing down on their future plans. There's this underlying anxiety about what lies ahead, Cami reveals. We're planning to start a family eventually, but bringing children into such an unpredictable world creates genuine stress. The Halvers aren't experiencing this financial anxiety in isolation. They're part of a growing trend of Americans questioning economic stability. Decoding the current US economic climate. Before the past fortnight delivered a series of disappointing economic reports that painted a picture of an economy losing its vigor. Recent polling conducted by the Deseret News in partnership with the Hinckley Institute of Politics discovered that most Utah residents have lost confidence in the national economic trajectory. President Donald Trump has persistently championed his tariff strategies and the economic policies embedded in the recently enacted federal tax and spending legislation as approaches designed to strengthen the nation's financial foundation. However, even advisors within his closest circle have begun acknowledging potential reasons for concern. After last week's discouraging monthly employment report triggered Trump's anger and resulted in the dismissal of the federal agency head responsible for collecting employment data, White House economist Kevin Hassett tempered his optimism about the U.S. economy with a note of caution. We have numerous compelling reasons to feel extremely positive about the year's second half. Hassett, who directs the National Economic Council, shared with CNBC. However, that employment figure, assuming the revision proves accurate, definitely indicates we have less economic momentum than previously anticipated. And this is the part most people miss. The Labor Department's June employment report wasn't just a single disappointing data point. The report fell short of analyst expectations and included backward adjustments to May and June figures that eliminated 258,000 jobs from those combined totals, representing just one of several concerning signs emerging over the domestic economy recently. The latest federal inflation statistics, specifically June's Consumer Price Index report, revealed that prices for American goods and services increased at a 2.7% annual pace during that month. This represented an acceleration from May's 2.4% rate and potentially signals the initial impact of trade tariffs on American consumer expenses. Monthly price increases reached 0.3% in June. With overall inflation, which had been generally declining since a January reading of 3%, reaching its peak level since February. Beyond the ongoing cost increases for essential items like food and housing, products sensitive to tariff changes, including household appliances, toys, electronics, clothing, and sporting equipment, also experienced price jumps. We're beginning to observe scattered evidence of the tariff-driven inflation system taking effect. Eric Winograd. chief economist at asset management company AllianceBernstein, told the Associated Press following the report's publication. Winograd noted that prices for durable goods also increased in June compared to the previous year, marking the first such increase in approximately 3 years. In a Thursday analysis published by investment research company Morningstar, J.P. Morgan portfolio manager Priya Misra explained that tariffs haven't yet delivered their complete impact on the US economy, and their ultimate influence on inflation could push consumer price index increases to between 3% and 3.5% by year's end. US gross domestic product growth, which measures the total worth of goods and services the country produces, decelerated considerably during the year's first 6 months compared to the previous 2 years, according to last week's government report. Consumer spending, which serves as the US economy's primary engine, has also been following a cooling pattern. Additionally, a fresh wave of tariffs became effective this week, affecting trade costs with more than 60 countries and the European Union's 27-member coalition. Most economists anticipate these tariffs will result in higher consumer prices for certain goods, although the scope and timeline of those increases remain uncertain. What Utah residents reveal about economic sentiment? What emerges more clearly, though, is how Utah residents perceive both local and national economic directions, along with their current personal financial circumstances. Through statewide online polling conducted between July 9th to 16th by Harris X for the Deseret News in collaboration with the University of Utah's Hinckley Institute of Politics, nearly half of participating Utah voters, 49%, declared the US economy was moving in the wrong direction, while 40% believed the nation's economy was progressing correctly. When responses were analyzed by participants' self-declared party membership, 57% of Republican respondents, compared to only 13% of Democrats, stated the US economy was advancing properly. Meanwhile, 31% of GOP participants told researchers the country's economy was heading in the wrong direction, a sentiment shared by 80% of Democrats. Poll participants demonstrated significantly greater optimism regarding Utah's economic trajectory, with 51% indicating they believe the state is following the correct fiscal course, while 32% said Utah is pursuing the wrong economic path. Once again, substantial differences emerged when examining responses through political affiliation. 67% of Republicans and 31% of Democrats stated Utah is on the right economic track, while 20% of Republicans versus 50% of Democrats said the state is moving in the wrong direction. When researchers asked, would you describe your personal financial situation as improving, deteriorating, or remaining unchanged? 26% reported financial improvement, 34% indicated worsening conditions, and 38% said their finances were staying stable. Regarding personal finances specifically, 33% of Republicans reported improvement compared to 20% of Democrats. 24% of Republicans indicated deterioration compared to 34% of Democrats. And 42% of Republicans said their situation remained unchanged compared to 37% of Democrats. Remarkably, Utah residents' perspectives on both US and Utah economies as well as their personal finances have remained remarkably consistent throughout this year. Responses to identical questions in the current Deseret News Hinckley poll were virtually indistinguishable from February's findings. Expert economic analysis. During a Deseret News conversation, Phil Dean, Public Finance Senior Fellow at the University of Utah's Kem C. Gardner Policy Institute, expressed no surprise regarding Utahns' divided opinions about national and state economies. He explained that these perspectives largely mirror Utah's superior performance compared to most other regions nationwide, Utah significantly outperforms national averages across inflation rates, employment growth, and state gross domestic product measurements. While the United States achieved respectable 2.8% GDP growth in 2024, Utah surpassed the national rate and every other state with an impressive 4.5% year-over-year GDP increase. The state simultaneously crossed the $300 billion economic activity threshold for the first time, reaching $301 billion total. Utah also maintains the top position for cumulative GDP growth over the past decade at 64%. Despite the Beehive State's economic success, Dean emphasized that Utah remains deeply interconnected with and dependent upon nationwide economic conditions, circumstances that appear somewhat more uncertain currently. Regarding the overall economy, we're definitely witnessing moderation taking place, Dean explained. Questions remain in several areas concerning the depth and scope of that moderation. Dean acknowledged that while US inflation has recently increased, current rates still fall within the upper range of normal territory. He also highlighted mixed economic signals, with service inflation trending downward while broader price increases have focused on goods, precisely where tariff pressures could become more significant soon. Tariffs will create inflationary pressure over time, Dean stated. However, significant uncertainty surrounds how that situation develops. But here's the question that could spark heated debate. Are we witnessing the natural economic cycles that every administration faces? Or are current policies creating artificial pressures that will eventually demand a reckoning? The data suggests complexity that simple political narratives can't capture. What's your take? Are the economic warning signs we're seeing justified concerns about policy impacts, or are they just typical fluctuations being amplified by partisan perspectives? The answer might determine whether families like the Halvers will feel confident enough to expand their households, or continue postponing major life decisions until economic uncertainty clears.